Welcome to Awakening Truth Podcast, which is a podcast where women support women in being seen and being heard and sharing our wisdom and our experiences with healing, holistic healing, aligning mind, body, and soul, and really just stepping into the life that we truly desire and that we truly deserve, and just sharing that knowledge so that you can do the same. As a little reminder, feel free to pause this session at any moment that you would like to take notes or just reconnect with your body. We're going to be covering various different topics, and it's going to be really beneficial for you to remain connected to your body and just really tuned in with your heart space, your heart center, and listening with an open heart and open mind to really get the most from the session. So, without further ado, please enjoy this episode of the podcast. So, I'm just going to invite us and anyone who is watching or listening to close down our eyes now for just a brief grounding exercise, just to help us come out of our minds and into our hearts. So just bringing awareness to any thoughts you may be having or any sensations that arise. Just noticing them. And letting them be there. Really just taking in the fact that we are here now in the present moment. Really sinking into this moment. Feeling the surface beneath you and the support that it offers you now. And imagining your body growing roots beneath you, deep into the earth, anchoring you there, holding you there in place. Nourishing you and nurturing you. Providing the security and the safety that you need to go about the rest of your day. As you've noticed any thoughts or worries coming up, or any aches or pains or discomfort, just recognizing them and sending them love now. Really feeling into that heart space. The subtle sensations of the heart beating. This vital part of us that keeps us alive, that wants us to live. And just sending gratitude to our heart and to our whole body for anchoring us into the present moment. Just taking a really big deep breath after realizing that. Breathing deeply into your belly. And releasing it with a sigh. Breathing deeply again.
letting it go. We just want to bring some gentle awareness to the very top of our head, to the crown of our head, where we receive all of the wisdom that we need, insights, ideas, inspirations, intuitions, guidance. Perhaps you feel a tingling sensation at the top of your head or an opening sensation. We really just want to invite this idea that we are being guided and that we can trust the guidance that we receive today. We can also trust our own intuition and our own wisdom. We can trust that whatever comes through us, whatever is meant to be shared, whatever is meant to be received, is for the highest good of all. So just taking a couple more deep breaths, really just letting this intention sink in and integrate. And then we'll slowly come back to the room. We'll open our eyes and just reorient ourselves to the space. That was nice.
Thank you so much. That felt so nourishing.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. It was nourishing for me too. So Isabelle, it's so good to have you here today. And what I would just like to invite you to do is to just share a little bit about yourself so that whoever is listening can just get to know you and what you're about and what you're passionate about. Maybe a little bit about how you serve others, because I know that's kind of part of your passion now, is like taking what you've learned and sharing that with others. So yeah, if you just want to share a little bit with us before we get started.
First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's so interesting how I notice again and again when I like jump onto calls like this, or even recording my own stuff, that what happens when I first get into it is like I'm in my mind.
Yeah.
And like the mind is trying to figure out what to say. And so this meditation was just so perfect to actually get into the body and like to grow these roots, because I truly believe that we need to be in the body in order to really, like you said, receive that guidance from above. Like it actually starts below in a way. And it's so interesting to notice that again and again. So thank you so much for guiding that really helped. And yeah, I guess I will just go ahead and share a little bit about my journey. I'm Isabelle. I'm sitting here right now in Tulum, Mexico. And yeah, my actual background, which I guess people kind of tend to introduce themselves with, kind of what they did and everything. It's actually in law. So I studied law, and then halfway through, I had and kind of, which felt very intense and life-changing for me, a spiritual awakening. And that was like a really big trigger point. that actually made me realize that I had these tendencies all my life. And kind of like when my parents and all the people around me, they were like into the Western medicine, I was kind of the one that just intuitively felt to take the holistic path. And that is something I'm still very, very passionate about and super, super interested in. And then just like little things, like little signs I received, and then really not just putting it off like most people do, you know, they're so much in their mind and they're like, that's bullshit. I was always super, oh my God, this sign, you know, and then I would be so curious about it and like Google it. And so after I had this spiritual awakening, which really was triggered actually after a breakup, and then that breakup triggered me to meditate, and that meditation led to an out of body experience. And I had never heard about anything like that. So that was super life changing. And I was led to the right people after that who could kind of help me understand what was actually happening. And I feel like when that happened, the path quite quickly unfolded, and I felt like I had very quick remembrance. It was like, okay, now I'm on the path, and it felt like, in a way, it felt like my life finally makes sense. That might sound a little extreme, but yeah, it felt like now I know why I'm here, and now life finally has like a deeper meaning. And so even though I was still studying law, I got super interested in all the spiritual kind of things, and was led to the path of, or what I call, organic femininity, like living our organic blueprint as a woman. And that is what I'm so passionate about, and what I work with, mostly with the women I work with now. It really is about finding back to that organic way of being a woman, which for me is also so connected to our womb space, and really nurturing and rediscovering that connection. And I'm also hosting, next Thursday, I'll also be hosting my first womb awakening workshop, which also includes a womb clearing. So all things womb is what I'm very, very passionate about. And then just for me, the path of returning to that organic way of being a woman is also connected to just our inner world in general. So having the courage to look within, and to also face the darkness, and to face the trauma, to face the shadows. It's so connected to our healing our inner children, hugging, embracing, and integrating our inner children, and really waking them up in a way. So like living the bandwidth of our inner children, like allowing the sadness, but also allowing that innocent joy, like the whole spectrum. That is something I feel is very life-changing. So I'm also super passionate about inner child work, and actually a lot of things. It's kind of like we talked about. It's like my work is actually a representation of my own journey, and like every piece of the puzzle I discover along the way that really helps me, that is the piece of the puzzle I get to pass on. And that's so beautiful. And for me, it kind of is like, have you heard about the archetype of like the wounded healer?
Oh
The
yeah,
wounded
yeah, yeah.
healer.
That
I,
just reminds me of like Chiron. Chiron is like the wounded healer for anyone who knows
yes, yes.
astrology.
Mm, yeah.
Mm.
I feel like that's a pretty kind of like accurate description of my path. Like
Yeah.
just healing with my own wounds and like really moving from the wounded feminine to the embodied, divine, sovereign, organic feminine.
That sounds so good. Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, yeah, that was so beautiful. All of the things that you shared. Like, I'm just sitting here like nodding my head because I just like resonate so much with, yeah, just with like so much that you shared. One of my breakups, like, I wouldn't say that it necessarily sparked like my awakening, but it made me buy my first tarot deck and got me like interested in like these more just
Same.
spiritual topics. I bought
Yeah.
3 tarot decks after that.
You never end up with just one.
I know, but I collect them because they're so beautiful. I have
Yeah.
this one sitting right here. This is not a tarot deck, but it's just so pretty. I just like them. Anyway, that's beside the point. But yeah, I just like resonate so deeply with everything that you shared, and I definitely relate with like, yeah, like we use our own like wounds because like as we heal through those, it's like something awakens within us that makes us feel like we need to share that with other people, because I feel like not, at least now in society, it's not as openly talked about, like trauma work and like shadow work and inner child and all of these things that are so like powerful. And I feel like at some point, like sometimes like self-love is a little bit like over talked about or overshared, that people are like, well, self-love, and they kind of just like shrug it off, or they have like their idea of what loving yourself means, but it doesn't necessarily like hit the soul level of what loving yourself really means.
It's so interesting you're saying that. I don't mean to interrupt you. It's just I feel so much resonance
Mm.
with that. I feel like the word self-love, it's so overused in a way. It's
Yeah.
just so that people, they just put it off and they're like, yeah, I've heard that a lot of times. I love myself, but that's not, it's sad in a way, because that way we're not actually accessing the depths that we can take this journey. And I feel like this is the essential journey that every human on this planet actually is invited to embark on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that. Invited to. We're all invited to it. Are you going to take the invitation or not, though?
Exactly.
And yeah, like I would say like unconditional self-love is what everyone needs. Like I feel like in a way like that is kind of like the doorway into the feminine way, because without that unconditional self-love, like that's what nurtures the seed. And I feel like there's a seed that's buried within us. It was alive when we were born. Like that seed was very like potent and full of promise. But then it's like as we go through life, it's like more soil gets buried on top of it and buried on top of it through like our pains and our traumas and our conditioning and all of this thing. And then it's like, in order to like awaken that seed and help it to grow, we need to like water it with like unconditional self-love.
Totally. Yeah. Hmm. Just letting that sink in, because it's
Yeah.
so, yeah.
So something that's coming up for me is, well, I really want to ask you about like your out of body experience someday, but I feel like that's a little bit off topic. But I feel like something that you mentioned from your intro of you is like the law school. And I feel like so many people will be able to resonate with this story of like kind of choosing a path that is very like very masculine oriented. And for anyone who's listening, when I say masculine, I don't mean like masculine as in like manly. I mean it as in like the divine masculine energy that we all have within us, but it's like that more structured kind of going for things, going out and seeking things and that sort of energy. And I feel like law school and law is like, whoa, like super in that category. And so it's like very opposite to where you find yourself now. So if you want to just share a little bit about that journey and what you've learned through your experience of like leaving that field and how you really had to embrace like the feminine way, or how embracing the feminine way has like helped you get to this point.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. Like you said, it's actually quite the opposite path. And so I was able to really experience both polarities, like the very masculine polarity as well as very feminine polarity. And what I've really learned is that in the end, it's going to be about balance. It's going to be about not being fully in your masculine, not being 100% only in your feminine, because I believe that then you'll be all over the place as well. It really is about finding balance. So where I'm at now, I'm actually very thankful for every experience I had, even the law experience. And there was a time when I actually kind of walked away, or even when I was still in it, finishing it, where I kind of like denied this path in a way, and was really just like, pushing it away from me. And it was super powerful to actually accept that and fully own it as a part of who I am, as a part of my journey. And like you said, it was super masculine, and it's a lot of like pushy energy, like the pursuing. You have that goal and you need to pursue it, and you really have to show up every single day and go for it, and put all your energy into it. And that really disconnected me so much from my cycle, and like being a woman that actually every woman goes through her seasons each month. And so I believe that a lot of women still live their lives really disconnected from that. And that is what really exhausts us. And for me, that is also what really caused adrenal fatigue. And it took over a year for me to really balance my nervous system and get to a point where I'm like, okay, my adrenals are really recovering. And so yeah, I believe that's, like you said, it's still something that I believe a lot of women, especially in like the Western world, they can relate to, because that awareness is just not there. And especially, it's not to like demonize those kind of jobs, or I think that's really important too, to not demonize it, but to at the same time raise that awareness, especially when it comes to our cycle, and just acknowledging our feminine nature. And then we can go pursue that path, but having it acknowledged, respected, honored our feminine nature, and weaving that in.
I love that you bring that up. Yeah, like this healing journey, like, yeah, I feel like balance is so important, and we really don't want to like box ourselves in with like this dogmatic thinking of like, oh, that's good and that's bad, or that's evil and like whatnot. I feel like everything in essence is neutral, and it's like we can choose to get the best out of anything, right? And so it's like, even if like, let's say you did want to like your soul was like urging you to continue this like law pursuit, it's like figuring out how to like balance that with the more like feminine aspects of yourself and of life, which I feel like is totally doable. I feel like people can actually do that if that's like in alignment with their heart and their soul. But if there's someone watching who's kind of on that path and they really want to like continue doing what they're doing because they just really love it, but maybe they are feeling a little bit burnt out, or they are just, yeah, like they're feeling like the effects of that, what kind of things would you like suggest to someone in that situation?
Mm. Um, for me, I believe it's kind of different levels of awareness coming together, and part of it really starts actually with the mind and understanding the cycles of a woman, and really being like educating ourselves around that, and just knowing that we go through different cycles, and that when we are in our inner autumn and leading towards winter, which is our menstruation, that is really a time where our energy actually spirals inwards, and that really is a time for us to take things a lot more slow. And so the education is like the first part that then allows ourselves to actually feel within our own being how these cycles are moving and how we are actually going through those cycles.
Mm,
And so that is like the main awareness, that then, if talking about self-love, if we love and honor ourselves on a deeper and deeper level, we're actually willing to really show up for what we need in each stage of the cycle. And even if we pursue a path that might be a little bit more masculine, or let's say more demanding more of our presence, when we're
mhm,
actually wanting to retreat and dive within, to really find ways to maybe delegate some of the other stuff that like needs to be done. Say if you
mhm,
have a boyfriend, really this is also about reminding and taking our men on board, and also raising the awareness within them to see and support the feminine in her nature, and to really serve her too, like knowing when she's in her autumn and her winter, to support her a little more, to go
mhm,
do the groceries, that when she's had to be out all day working whatever, to help her when she comes back, help her have a space to relax. And so that is like just the
mhm,
masculine support we can invite in. But of course it always is about showing up for ourselves first.
mhm,
So like delegating stuff, and then really, for me, I know that sometimes um, it might seem like a little, when you're pursuing a path like that, it might seem a little impossible to actually make that space, you know, like somebody might be watching and be like, well, it's nice you're talking like that, but there's no way I can make that space, because I'm obligated to be at the office from 8 a.m. till,
mhm,
I don't know, 7 p.m. How am I supposed to make room for that? And so
mhm,
I believe what's really like one important step for me is just showing, and that is so connected to our self-love, just showing ourselves that honor, at least that honor, like that we see it, we
mhm,
see we see that need to actually take things more slow, and
mhm,
we can find very small things to show ourselves, I see you, I honor you. And
mhm,
that literally can be like buying ourselves a rose that week, and letting it sit on our desk, and like taking like a little sticky note that's like a reminder to take a deep breath, like setting up reminders on our phone, whatever, just finding little ways to honor that nature of ours.
mhm.
And yeah, that's just what's coming through right
I
now.
love that so much. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think that was, yeah, that was a really strong piece there about delegating and asking others for support, because I still feel like there are so many women out there who like don't know how to ask for help. They don't know how to ask for that support, or they don't think that it's available to them. And I feel like there's one piece that's coming through for me really strongly, is that like belief that I this isn't possible. No one's going to be able to help me, or there's no way at work that they're going to let me do this. I feel like it starts with those beliefs, because I feel like what we tend to believe is what we tend to get back. So I also just want to encourage anyone who's listening is like, can you open up a little bit of space for some curiosity? They're like, I wonder if it, like, what would happen if it was possible for me to like reach out and ask this person to help me with this thing at work. You know, like I wonder if that person might help me. It's just like kind of questioning what may or may not actually be possible, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I so relate. And that for me is like also having that awareness that when we are in our feminine energy, where that is also connected to receiving.
Yeah.
And just knowing that as a woman, we're like meant to receive and really claiming that within first. Just like
Mhm.
opening it up and saying like on a like metaphysical level, just opening that up and saying, declaring, I am ready to receive. I'm ready to receive that support. I'm opening that field of receiving.
Yeah, that's a super important part. Yeah, I also was feeling called to bring that up too, is that like women, like we're freaking magnets, you know, like we're supposed to be magnets, like we're supposed to just let things come to us, kind of like what we were talking about yesterday. It's like, just imagine like a Greek goddess sitting on like a bed and people are feeding her grapes, you know, like that is us, you know, like we're supposed to be able to receive this sort of like attention and this care. But I feel like so many of us almost deny that. And I feel like that has a lot to do with like worthiness and shame.
Mm, yeah, yeah, totally. That's why I believe this. That's why I was bringing that piece up of just showing ourselves that little honor, like little steps of honoring ourselves, because I believe that really allowing our feminine nature to unfold and living that feminine nature, it's so connected to our self-worth and our self-love, actually feeling worthy of receiving, loving ourselves enough to make that space. And yeah, I definitely agree that there is a connection.
Yeah, I feel like the self-love piece is what kind of opens the door to like work deeper with these themes and with these patterns of unworthiness and shame that
Mm,
often like keeps us from like claiming what's ours.
mm, yeah, yeah. Self-love is actually, it's that gateway to really allow deep healing to take place on so many levels.
Yeah.
It's not just about allowing our feminine nature, it also is about really allowing ourselves, like gifting ourselves that gift of healing our trauma and
Mm,
taking the time to look at it, um, investing too, like honoring ourselves enough to really invest that money to work with somebody and to ask for help.
mhm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like
Yeah.
self-love is that gateway for all of those things.
Oh yeah. It's like that's what's gonna allow like you to go through that deeper healing, because like I feel like that deeper healing isn't possible if there isn't that level of compassion to kind of like sit with the discomfort and to hold yourself through everything.
Mm, yeah.
um and I feel like maybe that's why a lot of people kind of like I don't know if bypass is the right word, but they kind of like skip over like the feeling, the emotions and everything, because it's like that level of compassion isn't there. So their nervous system
Mm,
isn't like strong enough to hold all of that yet.
yeah. Yeah. And that's really sparking something within me right now, because I really feel like it's that allowance, like just holding myself through it all, that
Mhm.
allowance of allowing myself to feel all the feelings that are still buried like
Mhm.
deep inside, and allowing that all. And it's interesting because I feel like the what a lot of women are not allowing themselves to feel anger and to feel angry. I feel like that is the emotion where that allowance is like the hardest for most women.
Mhm.
And so, to be honest, it was only recently that I really, really gave myself to the permission slip to feel angry and to be seen in my anger. And that was the point when the anger actually it could flow. And what happened before I did that was I felt a lot of sadness,
Mm.
because that is like anger and sadness are very closely connected. If we don't allow ourselves the anger, then we will most likely cry. I feel like everyone has experienced that. Like you could either like flip like just
Yeah.
be super angry, or you're gonna cry. And I
Mhm.
feel like for us women, it's really so important to give ourselves that permission slip to just rage and be angry. And um, then also allowing ourselves to be seen in that. I really I'm living with my partner, and that is like another journey too, to really, um, I just allowed myself to be seen like that. And he saw me literally taking a towel and hitting the wall. And I was like, okay, go see me like that. And then to have that reflection that I'm still loved, I'm still accepted, because I gave myself that permission and acceptance within first. And so that is also so beautiful to see those reflections.
Yeah, I feel that deeply. I mean, I live with my husband too, and this past year especially, like I think it's because I've been going a little bit deeper into emotional release work, but it's like before I would kind of suppress the anger because like there was this belief that like a healed person doesn't get angry, you know? So if I get angry, that means I'm not healing. Or it's like this belief that a good person doesn't get angry. Like I can't be kind, or a kind person doesn't get angry. So I can't be kind and angry at the same time, you know? But I've really worked with that a lot lately. And yeah, there were a couple of times when there were like some blow ups, but like I felt like I was really honoring myself in those moments by letting myself actually like express that anger and be seen in that, even if it wasn't necessarily received. But it's like just me like expressing it was enough to feel like I was honoring myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And like seeing the beauty in an emotion that is so often labeled as ugly, and
Mhm.
just seeing the beauty. And for me, it's like I see just what I'm getting is like this connection to the fire, like the
Yeah, I felt
flames just
alive.
burning. Yeah,
I felt
feeling
alive.
alive.
And I
Yeah.
feel like so many people shut that part of themselves down. And that's why we have so much like depression these days, like chronic depression, because people suppress their emotions so much that it's almost like they feel dead, you know? And
Mm,
I can relate because like I was there like several years ago where I just felt like there was no passion. There was like, I would wake up and it would be like, for what? Like it would be the sensation of like, what's the point, you know?
yeah. It's allowing ourselves the full spectrum of life.
Hmm.
That is allowing all emotions to flow and just seeing ourselves as that. I like to see it as like me being that vessel, and every emotion is an energy, so energy in motion, and I am the vessel where the energy just flows through. And whenever I don't allow it to flow through, that is causing stagnation, and that is like manifesting in my body. It's getting stuck. And
Mhm.
so just what I felt, so what just came to me and what I would love to share for maybe women to really also see and get curious, that there's still some anger that's like within them on probably a deeper level. It's just, you can notice it when you tend to get pissed, like not that super angry, you start raging. It's just that you can see it, especially if you're living with a partner, being with a partner, because that
Mhm.
always is like just the number one reflection, that getting like that subtle being pissed kind of
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah, it's
way.
like that frustration, like the frustration. Yeah,
Frustration,
yeah. It's like that
frustration.
simmering just beneath the surface kind of feeling.
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
And that is always inviting you to go deeper. And I feel like this whole path also is, yeah, we said like self-love is the gateway, but it also is owning your stuff in a way,
Mm.
and really owning that when you're frustrated, when you're pissed, it doesn't have to be something that, like, say your partner did, and it's him, but you're
Mhm.
actually being invited to really look deeper.
I think that's yeah, it's a very good point. Like just kind of taking that invitation and going within. Again, that's the feminine way, like being willing to go within a little bit, to get quiet with yourself so that you can feel those like subtle sensations, because that's like the intuition. And us as women, like we're so intuitive and we need to let those emotions flow so that we can feel everything, because that's how we access our intuition. And so I feel like too, like if we are suppressing or blocking these emotions, it's almost like our intuition, like we don't have full access to like all of our intuitive abilities if we're like kind of keeping that like stagnant.
Yeah. 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 That's like, so self-love is like the gateway to, it's like each, like, layers of gateways keep
Yeah, yeah.
opening once we take that journey. And
Yes.
like you said, allowing the emotions actually allows us to access deeper levels of intuition and guidance that really comes from within. I totally agree.
And that's like where our sense of security comes from. Like that's how we, and I feel like that sense of security also helps us to balance like the masculine feminine, because we're always searching for that security outside of us, in a man, in a job, in whatever, like we're always looking outside of us for that sense of holding, right? For that like sense of, I trust you, let me hold you, let me take care of you. But it's like that sense of security really comes when we like can access that intuition when inside of us and like really trust, like trusting that.
Yeah. Yeah. That inner union.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Allowing our masculine, yeah, our masculine energy to like be the container to hold the feminine and her chaos, her intuition, whatever wants to come through, and really
Mm-hmm.
building that within first. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it can be a dance too. I feel it's really difficult to kind of put an order to things. Like, should I work on this in myself first, or should I kind of look for reflections on the outside? But I feel like it's this like dance of exchange. Like it's an exchange between us and the outside world. That's like how we learn and integrate and kind of, I don't know if up level is the right word, but just kind of like keep progressing along our path.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the focus should always be on ourselves first and like within first, but I've totally taken a step back from all those teachings that say it's only you and your inner world, and it's only you building that inner union within first, and you need to be like fully healed first in order to say attract a soulmate or something like that. And I've taken a step back because I was really humbled by life actually when it came to that, because I've received such big healing from like meeting my partner and really up leveling with him. And that was able, I was able to really quantum leap within myself and my own healing through meeting him. And so that just really humbled me to also, to also see that it's not all just within, it's also coming together with another, and just using life as that sacred mirror.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I like one word that like or phrase that like popped into my head as you were speaking is like aligned connection. Like when you align within yourself, you're going to align with the right people who are going to assist you on your healing path. They don't even have to be coaches or healers. Like it can just be your partner, it can be a friend, it can be a community. But like I feel like as humans, like we were built, it's like there's just this innate nature within us to connect. And I feel like there's so much of the healing that takes place when we're connecting with others in a really authentic and vulnerable way.
Yeah. And that's like both with the feminine, like us relating with sisters and like coming together, like we're coming together right now and just having this vulnerable and authentic conversation that is so healing. And at the same time coming together in that authentic aligned way, like you said, with the masculine, like it goes in both directions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like for anyone who does want to leave like maybe a little bit more of like a hustle community and they want to transition to like really owning their power and like starting their own thing, which I feel like is such like a feminine, it's like such a feminine thing to like claim your power in that way of being like I can, like I'm valuable and I have so much to share with the world and I can serve so many people, you know.
Yeah, I'd love to touch on that. I feel like the number one thing I really learned along that path, and I'm still learning because it's in like an ever unfolding mystery. I feel like this really is a path where the steps they're not written down. It is your soul's journey. It's so connected to you really trusting the guidance and you to trust the steps that really feel aligned in that moment. And it's like if you pursue a law career, you kind of have the steps written down. If you're becoming a doctor, you have the steps written down. You know what you need to do next in order to get there. And it's different with a business like that. I mean, of course, there's like business coachings and courses and all that stuff, but I believe that in the end, this is like the path that's just connected to the mystery and to spirit and your very own alignment. And I feel like that is so important to mention, especially because there are so many courses out there and so many people telling you like this is exactly how you do it. I mean, I believe we should always go with the people where we just feel that alignment and feel like they can actually be supportive for our own journey. But it's also keeping in mind that it is our soul's very own unique unfolding. And that is so connected to our feminine energy that really trusts that the right downloads will come at the right time. And this path it's one initiation after the other to really trust and surrender.
Yeah.
And because if you don't do that, you're going to push things and like exhaust yourself. And that was kind of like when I started my transition, I was still very much in my masculine energy. And so my mind tried to figure it out. And my mind tried to take me to places and tried to make me do things where my whole body, mind, spirit system just wasn't, it just didn't feel aligned. And so I kind of like collapsed a little under that pressure. And yeah, if I had allowed I mean, it's all part of the journey. I can speak about it today because I experienced it. So it's all good. But just if I had allowed that trust from the very beginning, I would not have collapsed under that or put so much pressure on myself. So my number one tip is to really allow your own unfolding and trust when you receive like that download and it feels aligned for you, to then trust and take the masculine action. But to really move from that space of trust.
Right. Yeah. To like align before you act with alignment, to really like, and I feel like really putting the emphasis on wait as long as it takes until you receive that aligned guidance to move forward. Because I think like in this society, like people are like pressuring you to make decisions really quickly. And the thing is like when you're operating from your intuition, like sometimes you won't get that download for like months. And it feels really uncomfortable to kind of just sit tight for a few months, because we've been like so conditioned to believe that like if we're not doing anything for that period of time, like we must be lazy bums, you know, like we must be like not caring about our future, that sort of thing. But I'm like speaking from experience, like there have been moments where I have just had to like sit with it for a few months because I just didn't have any inspiration or any motivation to do anything, and like really trusting that the inspiration would come, and that the downloads would come, and that inspired action would come as a result of that.
Yeah. Trust is such a big word. I so feel you in that. And I feel like especially when we're transitioning and we pursued like a more masculine path before choosing like the more feminine way, I feel like especially when we're undergoing a transition like that, it's so important to actually take the pause, take the break, and take time to recover, because a lot of us are just suffering from adrenal fatigue, and there's such severe levels of exhaustion, and we need to trust and surrender and allow that recovery to then be like birthed anew with, like you said, creative life force that can then move again. Because whenever we're like this and like pushing things and just like exhausted and our nervous system is just going crazy, that's not really a place where you can really receive that creative force and be kind of led by spirit and your higher self.
Yeah, I feel like there's this clearing that needs to happen first. It's like clearing out old energies or toxins or that sort of thing to like make space for something like new and beautiful to come in.
Yeah. And I feel like if we just if we just hold in our hearts that with what we want to do, we're just essentially wanting to serve. And if that's our intention and it comes from our heart very genuinely, I really honestly believe that it's totally just going to unfold how it is supposed to unfold, and we can absolutely trust that path and trust that timing. So yeah, just that inspiration to really hold this in our hearts.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. I feel like I want to end on that because that was just such like a good, yeah, a good reminder, just a good way to bring everything together. It's like honestly just coming back to the heart. It sounds simple. It's not always easy, but
Mm.
like I feel like it is just the core. It's like a core element to life. Like if we're wanting to live a passion-filled, prosperous life, kind of coming back to the heart. So thank you so much for
Absolutely.
that.
Thank you. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. I so enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. Me too.
Wow, that was such a powerful, powerful conversation. If you enjoyed this episode of Awakening Truth podcast and you would like to get more, feel free to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and do share your own truth in the comments. We would love to know what you felt from this conversation, and really just encouraging you to speak and share a little bit of your truth with us today, as that is truly powerful for, all of humanity. I truly believe that we're all connected. So would love to see you and feel you in the comments. Tune in next Sunday for the next episode of Awakening Truth podcast.